Before you watch this video, I want to let you know that this weekend I'm going to be live on Twitch for all the sport. Saturday afternoon, it's Manchester City versus Liverpool. Saturday night, the big fight. Anthony Joshua returns against Jermaine Franklin, and if he loses, he said he's going to retire, so there's a lot of pressure on that one. Then on Sunday, it's the big roundtable debate show live from 4 o'clock for Newcastle versus Manchester United. So feel free to hang out with me on Twitch for all the live sport this weekend. The link is in the description below, or you can just search True Geordie, and I'll see you there on Twitch. Welcome back to the kickoff. Today we're talking Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger being inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame. And look, in the 98 and 99 FA Cups, I was a wee lad. My hopes and dreams were to see Newcastle win silverware. And these two managers were so bloody good. No matter how good Newcastle were, it didn't matter. We lost to the double-winning Arsenal team, and the following year, the treble-winning Manchester United side. And these two old bastards stole something that belonged to us. But that being said, I still miss them. They were football, and I wanted to do a little video just to sort of commemorate this achievement, because I grew up, watching them give interviews and show young football fans what football was all about. Competition was what it boiled down to. This was two men who gave everything to their careers to beat one another, to win as much silverware as they could get their hands on and achieve greatness. They made the Premier League what it is today. The reason why people want an achievement is for what it means. It means something because of who's done that before, essentially. Like, you look at the reason boxers want to win world titles, it's because of Muhammad Ali. It's because of Mike Tyson. And the reason Premier League managers in the present day want to win those trophies is because of Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. Their rivalry, their determination, and the importance they placed on becoming number one is what gave the value to the Premier League, and not just on a competition level, but on an entertainment level. The personalities these two men had. The old hard-nosed Scotsman in Sir Alex Ferguson with the never-say-die steely attitude, and the Professor Arsene Wenger, who came in with a different approach, one that was more like a scientist and applied philosophies that we hadn't really seen applied to football, and took a different approach, brought in a wave of players we'd never heard of before, and gave Alex Ferguson a thorn in his side. What a rivalry. And I think it's so poetic that these two great managers be given their flowers together. Obviously, Sir Alex is the greatest, in my opinion. And he was someone I loved to hate. Like a villain in a movie, I despised him. I would take great joy at every time he lost a bad match or he was frustrated in an interview. But that was because of the respect and the jealousy that I had for him. I wanted those trophies. I wanted us to have what they had. They brought how to place your personality, your identity on your football team. That is what a great manager does. He imposes who he is in 11 players on the pitch and sends them out to do what he wants of them. And as simple as that sounds, it's incredibly difficult, and that is why we look at these two great men as special, because Sir Alex Ferguson especially was able to do this through multiple eras of football. When he started, it was a different culture altogether. You had people like Steve Bruce in defence who didn't exactly look after himself, let's be real. And through the eras, to take that to a Cristiano Ronaldo, it showed that he was timeless. Like a fine wine that he would glug. Alex Ferguson was a timeless classic of a manager. And in any era of football, he would be great. And while Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal ended in a more sad way than Fergie going out on a high, I think actually Wenger deserves so much more respect than he was given at the end of his time at Arsenal by the fans. No disrespect. I know fans want success, and I get that, but I hope that the Arsenal fans now feel a different way. I know in the heat of the moment at the end, when they weren't achieving what they wanted, they were frustrated, and it was sad to see a great manager who'd done so much for that club treated in the way he was. But now in the cold light of day, you look at what Arteta is building. He is standing on the shoulders of Arsene Wenger. Yes, it was time for him to go, but the reason players like an Odegaard want to go to an Arsenal is because of the status that was achieved by Arsene Wenger. Those great players like Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, Ian Wright, that lit the Premier League up. Arsene Wenger made Arsenal the mega club that they are today. And I just wanted to talk a little bit and just shoot the shit shit with you guys about what memories I have of these two. When I think of Sir Alex's teams, there's a few qualities that they all seem to have. They were all bastards, it's like, honestly. But they were good footballers as well. In the Premier League, you often have a very nice, pretty team, you know, who play nice football but can't get down and dirty. Or you'll have that hard-nosed, competitive team, I suppose like Newcastle are right now, but don't necessarily have the technique of some of the better teams. Fergie blended those two like no one else ever, in my opinion. When you combine a Roy Keane with an Eric Cantona, it's dynamite. You have out-and-out winners, a never say die attitude, and it's that never say die attitude that really lives with me about the memory of Fergie's teams. Like the fact that they were losing to the bitter end of a Champions League final and managed to score 2 goals in the dying minutes and had a phrase like Fergie time named after him because he was known for applying every little trick in the book, all of the pressure. As much as he was a working man and he had that sort of Scottish hard-nosed attitude about him, he was a genius. One of the smartest people we've ever seen in football. And it's funny because he may not have had the professor nickname that Wenger got, but he was every bit of a professor as Wenger was, if not more. Nobody was respected more than Fergie. And it's funny because like he was an older gentleman, and yet I think the players always thought he might beat the shit out of me. You know, like he ruled with fear and love. I remember him giving this phrase one time about how the most powerful words in the dictionary are well done. He understood psychology and how to manipulate, in a good way, his players to get the absolute best out of them. There were players who won things. You look at the likes of a John O'Shea and a Darren Fletcher. I'm not saying they're bad footballers, they weren't, but the level he got players like that to play at is ridiculous. And even players who you would have looked at before he signed them and went, is his time coming to an end, like a Teddy Sheringham or an Edwin van der Sar. And what he was able to get out of them when you thought the juice might have been squeezed already was amazing. And Michael Carrick, who was a good player, but to the level he got to, I don't think that ever happens without Alex Ferguson. And obviously there's the class of 92. They were a group of kids who he took and won title after title after title with. Yes, he was blessed with that talent, but if you give that to any other manager, does he do the same thing? No way. He understood how to motivate young men to achieve the full potential. Whatever was in their locker, whatever was their ceiling, he'd get them to burst through that. I think the thing that I'd like to focus on with Wenger, on the other hand, isn't the longevity. Like Wenger had longevity, but it was different to Fergie. He couldn't maintain that level of dominance that Fergie did. But with Wenger, his absolute prime, his peak, where his team went unbeaten in a Premier League season, and yeah, there's some debate about, you know, were other teams better? The point is unbeaten is unbeaten. And when Wenger had everything click into place, we might never see a team play more attractive football than what we've seen Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp and the like in their free-flowing best. It was so special. Newcastle had a decent side back then at times. It felt pointless at times. It really did. It felt like, how bad is this going to be? Terrifying. And terrifying not in a like a Man United way where you're playing a team of competitors. Terrifying in a way, we're going to get humiliated today. We're going to have a team play such beautiful football. It's worse than getting knocked out almost. You know, like when you can't hit Floyd Mayweather, it's more frustrating as he's popping and taking the piss out of you than it is in just going in there and getting cleaned out by Mike Tyson. When you had Thierry Henry with that smirk on his face doing the most magical, unbelievable things with a football that we've seen, all 6'4" of him as well, not like he was this little trickster. He had everything. That really was a sight to be seen. To see 11 players who it was like they had the same brain, and they did. It was Wenger. He was doing that mastermind tactical job where every player on that pitch was almost like synchronized. It was like they were telekinetic with each other. There was times where they had that one-touch football where you really just had to sit back and go, All right, it's one of them days. Just looking through the Wikipedia here, and you see the names of the players that he brought into the Premier League. Nicolas Anelka, who really was a wonder kid, and he burst onto the scene. Him and Mark Overmars, the frightening pace that those two had. I mean, it was blistering. Dennis Bergkamp was the one, though, for me. That was a player that we'd not really seen anything like. Yes, Anelka was effective and Overmars was frightening, but Dennis Bergkamp was a magician. The way he would take the pace out of a football, I'd never seen anything like that before. I remember that hat-trick he scored, I think it was against Leicester, where you're just like, what are we watching here? Bergkamp was actually one of my favourite players to watch in his prime. Some of the other players that Wenger brought through were Ashley Cole, arguably the best left-back I've ever seen. Freddie Ljungberg, absolute goal machine from midfield. Robert Pires, him on his day was a nightmare. I mean, world class. He was one of the first I remember to cut in on his right foot from the left-hand side and cause defences nightmares. What a touch he had. In terms of Ferguson signings, I mean, Eric Cantona, one of the few who had that perfect blend of steel with technique. If there's one player who really summed up Ferguson, it was Roy Keane, though. I really think it's sad that those two fell out, because if there's anyone Ferguson owes, in my opinion, for a lot of his success, it was Roy Keane. The man captained Manchester United to 4 Premier League titles, which I believe is an equal to the record. He was the representative of Ferguson out on that pitch. He told them what Fergie demanded from them, and he helped set the tone in that dressing room. Players like Paul Scholes, who controlled that midfield and kept everybody ticking. He was like, how do you describe him best? This was a man who had almost like a 3D brain and understood where everybody was on the pitch at any given time and knew when he got that ball, where it was going before he got the ball. This man was 10 steps ahead of everyone. Ruud van Nistelrooy was another absolute bastard who, I mean, he was like Erling Haaland back in the day, The man was built like a man mountain, really quick acceleration, one chance, back of the net, lethal striker. As good as I've seen. One of the clever things I think Fergie did as well is he always kept recycling his assistant manager, keep the messaging fresh, and I think that gave him that longevity, and he understood, like, if these players are hearing the same things all the time from the same people, it's gonna wear thin. I'm the top guy, but I need other people beneath me to keep changing, to keep it fresh, and I need to also keep freshening up the team as we go. So every season he just get just enough new signings in to keep it going and keep replenishing the squad. And to be fair, one player who Fergie and Arsene Wenger shared in common was Robin van Persie, who I think had an element of both managers in them, where he was a winner, he was technically fantastic, and he only needed one chance. It's hard to talk about Sir Alex Ferguson without talking about Wayne Rooney. What he did for that young lad's career, he signed him, 18 years old, and had him right the way through, and all of those trophies Wayne Rooney ended up with. I mean, Fergie gave him that confidence, while also tapering down some of the lunacy that he had in his game to convert all of that energy that Rooney came with from Everton into an end product. There's always a danger with a player like Wayne Rooney where he can try and do it all. And I think Fergie really helped keep him on task. Here's your job. Go out there and create and score goals. And combining Wayne Rooney with Carlos Tevez and Cristiano Ronaldo gave Sir Alex Ferguson a second wave of trophies. Because it looked a bit like Jose was going to take over there. And that gave him that new wave of trophies and dominance again. And I just had to come on and show a bit of love for these two, because despite them taking away from my happiness as a young lad, you've got to say that the Premier League, it wouldn't be what it is without these two. And while we're on it, I'm going to watch some of their best and funniest moments in press conferences and interviews and remember how great these two were.
Arsene Wenger's had a swipe at Manchester United again today. He's got plenty to say. You should maybe concentrate on Ian Wright's tackles maybe rather than talk about Manchester United. He's at they used to be a big club, Arsenal. Maybe next year.
He's so petty. I tell you, I love what an absolutely vicious competitor this guy was.
Unless you've been in a situation of playing 4 games in 7 or 8 days, then you don't know. Arsene Wenger's been in Japan for a year. He doesn't know anything about English football. He's unaware of the demands of our game.
Wow, he really was rattled. Yeah, Fergie.
If the owners of Man United gave you a blank cheque over the summer and allowed you to bring in any one just one of Barcelona's team from tonight, who would you sign?
That's one of the most stupid questions I've ever heard in my life.
Son jugadores muy importantes y muy buenos para nosotros. Ha vuelto, ha añadido una postura, ha renovado el equipo, el grupo. Tiene la capacidad de atacar y regatear y nos da una concentración.
Fergie is so, like, vengeful, isn't he? I just love it. What a nasty man. Is he coming Friday? We'll ban him on Friday. Let's get some Arsene Wenger moments, because I know he had a temper.
With regards to sex, I can't say that, can I? With regards to sex, Mr. Wenger.
Yes, that's your point. I cannot interfere.
Does he have a statue at Arsenal? He fucking should do. Jesus. Hey, that was iconic, to be fair, when he got sent off. What a legend, man.
I cannot say I raised a lot of enthusiasm when I arrived.
How much are the players looking forward to Arsene Wenger arriving?
Who?
Right, he's just the best.
What you want in life is a chance, and I got the chance.
Oh, wow.
The
What
way
a
we
goal that
were
was.
playing, the way we were eating, the way we were training, everything that we were doing, he changed.
They chanted on the bus, we want our Mars bars.
Yes, they wanted the chocolate back on the bus.
All of that was gone.
I banned it all.
This was the thing. This guy was really known for, like, being very astute when it comes to diet and performance. It was a totally different culture. Wenger wasn't as successful as Fergie, but you could argue quite easily had as big an impact in terms of the direction of football. Fergie definitely had to adjust his style to compete with what Wenger had brought into the game from a sports science point of view.
Right from the start, he made us realise that we could be whatever we wanted to be. We could be champions.
There you go. And that is what a great manager does. There's a mental block a lot of players have where it's like they put people up on a pedestal whenever they win a trophy like the Premier League title. And it just requires a leader to look in their eyes and make them feel like, yeah, you can do that. And everything Ian Wright's saying just doesn't surprise me here.
This would be a fairy story.
Dude, Tony Adams, for those who don't really have an understanding of his career, because some of you guys are younger than me, obviously, he was like the most old school motherfucking defender. Read the game impeccably well, but as hard as nails. And he wasn't necessarily the fastest, but because he could read the game so well, he would be in the right place all the time. One of the best I've ever seen at that. And it's funny because now we talk about footballing centre-backs who can play the ball out. This guy was a great footballer, as well as a good defender. And this goal that he scored against Everton on the final day where they won the title, there's this moment, even as a Newcastle fan, as a kid, I remember watching it, and as he's breathed this moment in afterwards, you're like, your centre-back scoring a goal like that, man. You guys are the best. And that was a great blend of the French technical aspect of football mixed with that hard-nosed English backline that Wenger had originally.
It was all down to Arsene. I don't think that happens with somebody else.
Emmanuel Petit and Patrick Vieira. What a combo these two were. The man mountain Patrick Vieira was, and then the technician that Petit was. I mean, Vieira had everything as well, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, between the two of them, what a duo that was.
He was the only one who believed that we could go through the season unbeaten.
The guys, they said they couldn't believe that he said that and made that public.
No, my friends, I believe you can really do it. Do you want to become immortal now or not?
Hey, just to hear a manager speak like that about what a club can achieve, that kind of belief and vision is what takes a club from being Arsenal that they were to a giant club.
That is brilliant! And the Arsenal juggernaut.
These lot, man, they were a fucking nightmare. And one player I don't know if they've mentioned who I think really deserved credit was Gilberto Silva. He added some steel to the Robert Pires, Bergkamp and Henry's. He was a great defensive midfielder. Sol Campbell as well, man. Man mountain at the back. People talk about, oh, built different. No, they were literally built different. Vieira was a great example of someone who, like, how can you be so big and strong, so technically gifted? Like, Bergkamp was a big lad. Henry was 6'5" or something, as well as having like all the athletic advantages and the technical advantages. They were a freaky side, man. Played 38, lost none. Had they done one for Fergie? They must have. Here we go.
Premier League Sir Alex Ferguson. He never gets tired of winning.
I got tired of seeing that. I really got tired of seeing that image. If Newcastle hadn't had this man in our way, we would have at least had one or two, like one minimum Premier League titles. 12 points clear we were in December. 12, and they caught us. And don't get me wrong, they were great, but it was the mentality of Fergie that got them to catch us. We didn't have a leader like they did. Kevin Keegan was a great manager for his time, but mentally, Fergie was unbreakable.
My main drive and my main intention was to win the league. So that was my challenge. There's no question about that.
No question about that. Terrible.
You can point to one thing that was missing, you can say it was Cantona.
Peter Schmeichel, man. He is another absolute bastard. Like, there has never been a goalkeeper that I have seen, maybe one or two. Like, I remember Korn for Germany was a bit like that, but just a big, ugly bear at the back who you felt mentally, why can't we score? He had an aura about him, Peter Schmeichel, like I've not really known in other goalkeepers, and he just felt unbeatable.
When Eric Cantona came, it was the Messiah. He transformed the confidence factors.
Yeah, Eric Cantona put the fear of God into every Premier League side, man. He had it all.
I think it's very difficult to say that you're going to dominate football. But what I think we will do is I think we will be there all the time now. I'm confident of that.
He wasn't wrong, was he? Jesus.
Vanishes quite quickly for me, winning.
To come back the year after stronger, more determined. To
look at the energy in him. Even when he was 60 years old, he had the energy of a bloody 30-year-old. He lived and breathed it.
Win was always what it was about.
We didn't win every week title, but we tried to win every week.
Sir Alex was like an animal, man. It was just like constantly winning, consistency, his appetite for the game, his appetite for rebuilding teams.
That's a great point by Rio there. Rio was always a good defender, but at Manchester United, he also became larger than life. You know, he became someone who you thought, this guy is so good, he could literally lead that club for a decade, you know? And when Rio says like the thirst Alex Ferguson had for the game, that really came across. And if you're a leader, you need to be someone who is willing to go above and beyond, because if you're not willing to go above and beyond, then why the fuck should the players? The standards he had for himself and the attention to detail really poured through. Like,
this guy's just relentless.
Relentless. That's a word.
Year after year after year.
I could lose my temper if I lose a game. You know why? They forgot the expectation. They forgot the very thing we work every day for.
It's sad to see him getting old, bless him, and I don't mean this in a negative way, because it's kind of happened to us all. But you know, he feels like he'll never leave football.
He built a reputation of being really hard and direct, and a desire to win.
That's the thing that I haven't really given enough credit for Man United, is how fun they were to watch. Probably because mentally I hated watching them win, but the blistering pace, the forward-thinking players that they had, the attacking passes, always like direct. Like, it wasn't none of this fucking. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not having a dig at Pep Guardiola, because the guy's a world-class manager, one of the greats. But sometimes I can watch them and be like, it's just like removes the competition element out of a game, because they're so in control of a football match and they strangle you of possession. Whereas a lot of Alex Ferguson's sides, it was so direct, it was just non-stop attacking pressure and thrilling to watch, you know?
The Manchester United team that has written their name in the history books.
So Alex Ferguson was the best thing that happened to Cristiano Ronaldo's career, man. He showed him, okay, you have all the natural talent, but here is the level. And if you hit that level, then you will blast through your potential. And him getting that education from a young age meant that when he went to Real Madrid, when he went to Juventus, when he went anywhere, he was always getting the absolute most out of himself. And I put that down to him having a father figure in Fergie. He taught him how to be great. So that was just a little trip down memory lane from me to talk about two of the GOATs. Let me know what you thought of their careers, some of your favourite memories of both guys in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button. Stay subscribed to the Kickoff YouTube channel, and I'll see you on the next one.